Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly keep your mobile phones on silent during the lecture. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of His Excellency, Dr. Sultan Mohammed al-Naimi, the Director General of the Emirates Center for Strategic Studies and Research, we would like to welcome you to a lecture titled, Building on Centennial Glories and Beginning a New Chapter at the Golden Jubilee, to be delivered by His Excellency Jian, Ambassador of the People's Republic of China to the UAE. His Excellency Jian joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China in 1996 as Deputy Division Director, and later became Director in the area of West Asian and North African Affairs. In 2001, he was posted to Israel, where he served as political counselor at the Chinese embassy for 1 year. In 2006, he was appointed Deputy Director General of the General Office at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China, and in 2008, became Consul General at the Chinese Consulate General in Manchester, UK. In 2014, after serving as Ambassador Extraordinary Plenipotentiary in the Republic of Iraq for 3 years, he was appointed Deputy Head of Mission at the Chinese Embassy in the United Kingdom. His Excellency Jian became the Ambassador Extraordinary Plenipotentiary of the People's Republic of China to the United Arab Emirates in 2016. Tonight's lecture will discuss the achievements of China and its people under the leadership of the Communist Party of China during the last 100 years, before examining the UAE's achievements under its wise leadership over the past 50 years. The lecture will then pay tribute to the strong ties enjoyed by the UAE and China, which are deepening in a wide range of areas, including the exchange of knowledge and expertise, as we look to continue on the path of ever closer cooperation. And now, I would like to welcome Ambassador Jian to deliver his lecture. Your Excellency, please, sir, the floor is yours.
Your Excellency, Dr. Sultan Naimi, Mr. Ahmed Al-Hamali, Dr. Khalid Al-Tahari, ambassadors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm very happy to deliver a speech at the Emirates Center for Strategic Studies and Research. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Communist Party of China, which coincides with the 50th anniversary of the founding of the UAE. So at this historical moment of the happy coincidence for both China and the UAE, I would like to review the past and looking forward to the future, and jointly drawing a blueprint for future China-UAE relations. For thousands of years, the Chinese people have created a long and splendid Chinese civilizations, making extraordinary contributions to mankind as a great nation in the world. But in modern times, due to the invasion of Western powers, China gradually became a semi-colonial and a semi-feudal society. The Chinese people suffered unprecedented afflictions and fell into a perilous situation of domestic strife and foreign aggression. The two major historical tasks the Chinese nation facing in modern times were to stand up, that means to achieve the national independence and the liberations, and to prosper, which means to make the Chinese people getting rich and going out of the poverty. Countless Chinese of insight carried out unremitting explorations for right system and the path for the country. However, no matter the westernization movement of the feudal landlord class, the revolution reform of the bourgeoisie, or the attempts of constitutional monarchy, multi-party parliamentary, and the presidential republic, and the Chinese people trying all kinds of the ways, but never succeeded in changing the tragic situation of Chinese poverty, weakness, and humiliation. One night, July 1921, 100 years ago, the first National Congress of the Communist Party of China was held in Shanghai, solemnly declaring the founding of the party that would bravely shoulder the arduous tasks filled by different political forces. The establishment of the Chinese Communist Party profoundly changed the direction and the path of China's development, transformed the future and the destiny of the Chinese nation, and altered the trend and the pattern of the world development. In the 28 years after 1921, the Chinese Communist Party led the Chinese people to defeat Japanese imperialist aggression and the domestic reactionary forces opposed by the entire Chinese people, achieved national independence and liberation, and established the People's Republic of China, where the Chinese people became the real masters of their own country. China ushered in a new era of development and progress. But when New China was founded in 1949, the country was really very poor and backward, with a GDP only $12.3 billion US dollars, ranking 77th in the world, and the per capita GDP was only $23, ranking among the poorest countries in the world. For thousands of years, the Chinese people have dreamed to have adequate food and clothing, so which is also a very heavy responsibility for the Chinese Communist Party to fulfill. And its leadership, after continuous exploration for more than 70 years since the founding of the Republic, China has gradually found a successful development road of socialism with Chinese characteristics. This road focuses on economic development and insists development is an absolute principle. Pressing ahead with reforms in all aspects has enabled China's economy to develop rapidly in recent decades, with an average annual growth rate of over 9% and an unprecedented improvement in the people's living standard. Today, China's GDP has rocketed to 14.7 trillion US dollars, an increase of more than 1,000 times than 1949. China is now the world's second largest economy, accounting for 17% of the world's economy and contributing more than 30% to global economic growth for many years already. Nowadays, the per capita GDP of China exceeds 10,000 US dollars, hundreds of times more than 1949. Adhering to the development philosophy of common prosperity, China had completely eliminated absolute poverty and regional poverty by 2020. It took China only a few decades to complete the task, taking hundreds of years by Western countries, enabling all Chinese people to live a happy life is a great historical contribution to the human society. At present, China is the world's largest manufacturer, the largest goods trader, the largest foreign reserve holder. China leads the world in output of over 220 industrial products. China has the world's longest railways and highways, the largest installed power capacity and internet infrastructure, and is the largest user of new energy and renewable energy. 7 of the world's top 10 airports with the largest passenger traffic, and 7 of the top 10 ports with the largest container throughput are in China. China has achieved a large number of scientific and technological achievements, such as atomic bomb, missile and satellites, manned space flight, Mars exploration, quantum communications, supercomputing, and deep-sea submersible. China has caught up with the world's most advanced level in many fields and become the front runner in some areas. In terms of intellectual property, China ranks among the top in the world with the largest number of patent applications. Looking at the past century, the Chinese Communist Party has grown from a very small party of only 50 members to the world's largest political party with more than 95 million members, which is the biggest party in the world already. It has always kept in mind its original aspiration and missions, that is to wholeheartedly strive for the happiness of Chinese people, the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, and the peace for the whole world. The litmus test for a country's system is good or not is to see whether it can continuously improve and raise people's standard of living, and whether it can create a happy and prosperous life for its people. This is what the Chinese Communist Party has accomplished and will continue to work on. Ladies and gentlemen, Chinese President Xi Jinping said, "The aspiration of the people to live a better life must always be the focus of our efforts." The founding father of the UAE, Sheikh Zayed, also said, any ruler, is only there to serve his people and secure for them prosperity and progress. So in the past 150 years, China and the UAE have explored development paths suited to their own national conditions and made painstaking efforts to realize a rapid rise and make numerous miracles. As comprehensive strategic partners, China and the UAE have similar development paths, converging development philosophies, and the same development goals. China has the 2 centenary goals, while UAE has the Centennial Plan of 2071. President Xi Jinping proposed the Chinese dream of national rejuvenation, while the UAE leaders aim to make the UAE among the best countries in the world. President Xi proposed the Belt and Road Initiative, while His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, proposed the vision of revitalizing the Silk Road. President Xi initiated the concept of building a community with a shared future for mankind, while the UAE advocates tolerance and coexistence and welcomes people from different countries, ethnicities, religious, and cultural backgrounds to live here harmoniously. This year, the UAE is celebrating its Golden Jubilee. For half a century, the UAE leadership, represented by the founding president Sheikh Zayed, and the industrious and intelligent people of the UAE have worked hard to transform the desert fishing villages into the prosperous pearl of the Middle East. In the 50 years since its founding, the UAE's GDP has increased more than 200 times, from $1.7 billion to $410 billion, and ranks among the top 30 countries in the world. Its per capita GDP of UAE has grown from less $1,500 to nowadays nearly $70,000, which is among the world's most prosperous countries. The UAE is the most important trading, financial, and shipping center in the Middle East. It continues to create more world's first and world records, such as the world's first 7-star hotel in Dubai and the 8-star hotel, which is the Emirates Palace Hotel, the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa, the largest artificial port, the largest man-made island, the largest shopping mall, the largest indoor ski resort in Dubai, and the largest indoor theme park of the Flowery World in Abu Dhabi, which I quite often and for many times being there together with my family members. There are currently 71 skyscrapers over 350 meters in the whole world, among which 13 are located in UAE and 35 in China. And the 828-meter high Burj Khalifa stands out as the tallest building in the world. The UAE is also a global aviation and shipping hub. Dubai International Airport is the world's busiest international airport. Jebel Ali Port ranks among the world's top 10 in terms of the container throughput. The UAE upholds peace, openness, diversity, and tolerance, and welcomes people from all over the world to live in harmony and seek common development in the UAE. In the Middle East, where the ethnic conflicts, religious tensions, and the geopolitical factors intertwine and collide, the UAE has maintained social stability and good public security for many years already. Abu Dhabi and Dubai have repeatedly ranked among the safest cities in the world, also known as the oasis of peace in the Middle East. The UAE has realized the peaceful coexistence of people from all countries and various religious, integration of diverse civilizations, and coordinated social and economic development. It has perfectly carried on the founding president Sheikh Zayed's legacy of creating a global model of tolerance and coexistence. The UAE is also actively seizing the high ground of science and technology, with a focus on the fourth industrial revolution. The country is developing cutting-edge technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, virtual reality, 3D printing, robotics and space exploration, and has established the Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence, which is the first of its kind in the whole world. It is worth to mention that the UAE and China successfully launched HOPE and Tianwen No.1 Mars probes last year, which roamed the vast universe together and entered the orbit and landed on the surface of the Mars respectively this year. Ladies and gentlemen, the UAE shares the deepest, broadest, and the most fruitful cooperation with China among Middle Eastern countries. In recent years, China and the UAE have had frequent high-level political exchanges and have continuously deepened political and strategic mutual trust. The top leaders of the two countries exchanged visits and reached important consensus, ushering China-UAE relations in the best period in the history. The frequent personnel exchanges at all levels between our two countries fully reflect the high standards of China-UAE relations. There are many highlights in China-UAE economic and trade cooperation, which solid steps taken in jointly building the Belt and Road. China continuously to maintain its position as the UAE's largest trading partner, while the UAE has also become China's second largest trading partner and the largest export market in the Middle East for many years. Facing the severe impact of COVID-19, the bilateral trade volume between China and the UAE in 2020 reached $49.3 billion, an increase of 1.13% despite the global downtrend, which demonstrates the strong resilience and the potential of our economic and trade cooperation. A large number of Belt and Road flagship projects, such as Halifa Port and the China-UAE Industrial Capacity Cooperation Demonstration Zone, are progressing smoothly. Chinese companies have actively participated in the UAE's infrastructure development, such as Etihad Rail, 5G network, and the Dubai Expo, making their contributions to regional interconnectivity. China-UAE cultural and people-to-people exchanges are thriving. Our technological and educational cooperation is also in rising. The 100 Schools program, initiated by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, is advancing steadily, with 118 UAE primary schools and secondary schools offering Chinese language courses. The Chinese School Dubai has been established as the world's first full-time Chinese curriculum school outside China. The plan to open the Chinese Cultural Center in Abu Dhabi is in progress. Technological cooperation between our two countries in cutting-edge areas such as artificial intelligence, Jian technology, healthcare, and modern agriculture is also being deepened. In the sudden outbreak of COVID-19, China and the UAE have stood firmly together and fought side by side, setting a global model of international cooperation against the COVID-19. When China was severely hit by the virus, the UAE provided generously medical supplies to China, and its landmark buildings, such as Burj Khalifa, lit up the Chinese red 3 times to show the solidarity with China Wuhan. China has also unreservedly provided the UAE with bona fide assistance, such as drugs, testing kits, protective equipment, and raw materials. The two sides have carried out efficient cooperation, such as joint prevention and control, information sharing, vaccine research and development, and healthcare. The most unforgettable cooperation is China and the UAE collaborated in the world's first phase 3 international clinical trial of an inactivated COVID-19 vaccine, which later extended to Egypt, Bahrain, and other countries, involving 37,000 volunteers from 125 countries and creating multiple world records. The Chinese government has also overcome the difficulty of insufficient vaccine production and provided UAE with more than 20 million doses of vaccine and assisted with great efforts to help with the UAE's national vaccination plan. At present, the production line for Chinese vaccines has been officially launched in the UAE, marking a new stage for China-UAE cooperation against COVID-19, which will make the UAE a regional vaccine production and distribution center to jointly produce the vaccines by our two countries will benefit more people of different countries and regions, thus making new contributions to building a community of common health for mankind. Ladies and gentlemen, this upcoming October, Dubai will host the first World Expo in the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia, during which China Pavilion Light of China will make its grand appearance. In February next year, Beijing will host the 24th Winter Olympics, making it the first city in Olympic history to host the both Summer and the Winter Olympics. I believe these two great events will provide important opportunities to deepen China-UAE friendship and set up platforms to share the destiny of mankind in the post-COVID-19 era. At this historical happy coincidence between the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Chinese Communist Party and the 50th anniversary of the founding of the UAE, we review and build on the past glories in order to open up new prospects for the future and draw blueprints for the development and the cooperation of our two great countries in the next 50 and 100 years. In the face of major world transformations unseen in the century and a complex and severe COVID-19 pandemics, China and UAE need to strengthen cooperation more than ever before and press ahead together. This is not only to meet the requirements of our time, but also to answer to the shared aspirations of our two peoples. Let's join hands and work together to build on our past achievements and create a brighter future for China-UAE relations. So finally, by conclusion, may China-UAE cooperation yield more fruitful outcomes. May China-UAE friendship last forever. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. You may, please, sir. Thank you very much for your informative lecture in which you described the history of relations between our countries and our future cooperation spanning many disciplines in the years to come.